Hi everybody, my name is Natalie Reynolds and I'm the General Manager of Business Development and Operations for Master Plumbers. I look after all the safety, but also all the apprentices and the labour hire company. It's in this video that I'm pleased to try and explain to you the complexities around wage subsidies and how it is that Master Plumbers will be administering them. The good news is that there is a substantial wage subsidy on offer for all of our host employers, but the levels of those subsidies does depend on exactly your personal circumstances. So I'm writing this video. Please share the link with anybody that you like within your enterprise who may need to know this information. Right now you should see a screen where I am showing you a PowerPoint to explain these wage subsidies. Okay, now I just want to start with something that is highly relevant for you all, and I'm not sure that most people are aware of this. What we've seen is many of our host employers and members are currently claiming JobKeeper. JobKeeper is not what these subsidies are about, but I just want to let you know that you can't claim JobKeeper for any employee that you let go before the 1st of March in 2020, or anyone that you first employed after the 1st of March 2020. So this means that you might have JobKeeper and you might get a new job or get busier and pick up coming out of COVID-19. Whilst you're still eligible for employees that you've kept on your books from 1st of March onwards, that you hired before the 1st of March, if you need a new apprentice or a new employee of some sort, you can't actually claim JobKeeper for people that join you after that date. Now, if you're using a system like Xero or MyOb, then the single touch payroll will do this for you automatically. It's been programmed by the providers to only claim for those people. So this creates a very strange anomaly in that you're growing your business, you're receiving JobKeeper, you want to hire someone, but you're paying full tote odds for them. In addition, the turnover tests for business eligibility can mean that your eligibility changes, and it depends on which test that you're actually using. So just because you've met the JobKeeper requirements once doesn't mean that you'll continue meeting the eligibility requirement right through to the 30th of September. So just to make sure that you know the websites that you may need to be aware of and to talk to your accountants about, just want to make sure that you can see here. So this is the JobKeeper website. You can see the link up the top here. And there's a basic test, and there's actually different periods. So there's turnover test periods, different comparisons, and then essentially it's about making sure that your GST turnover is 30% below what it was for the previous period or higher. And there's different ways to test that. So please make sure you look at that. And similarly, here is the page about eligible employees on the tax office's website. And you'll see the part that I've highlighted in blue, which explains that you can't claim JobKeeper for anyone that you hired after the 1st of March or anyone that you let go before the 1st of March. So that means that there is a real issue, I think, in really making sure that you can start up and that you can hire people. And this is where these wage subsidies come in. PAV, as a registered group training organisation with a contract with the Victorian government, has been given the authority to administer wage subsidies on behalf of the federal government. So what does this mean? And this is not available through many other labour hire companies. Other labour hire companies may themselves have had the turnover reduction of 30% or more, and therefore may be receiving JobKeeper. Now, it's of course what they do, they may wish to pass on the JobKeeper, but as soon as they fall out of eligibility, then of course they can no longer pass on something that they don't receive. So it's important for you to be aware that what we're talking about is not JobKeeper. It is through the Department of Education, and these are wage subsidies. So these will not be affected by what happens with master plumbers. There are two versions of the wage subsidy. The first version actually was announced in very early March. And here it was a little bit strange the way it was announced. It said that if one of our apprentices happened to be placed with a host employer on the 1st of March, just this qualifying date, who had 20 or fewer employees, then they became special. They became eligible, and we call them, for our vernacular, green spot specials, because it's about the apprentice, not about the host. So if those apprentices were then placed from the 1st of March onwards with any host employer, it doesn't matter about the size of the host employer, it doesn't matter about the situation of that host employer. Everyone from that date forward receives up to $7,000 a quarter until the 30th of September. Now that $7,000 a quarter is half the wages, all right? So it's up to that. It depends on what the apprentice has been paid. And of course, host employers will receive back half the wages, depending on what we receive, for the weeks that they've actually hosted that apprentice. So if the apprentice has been at trade school or leave, then that's not time that that host has actually paid for that apprentice, because the apprentice has normally been placed with lots and lots of different hosts. So we're collecting that money, and we will, in the end, look at providing a rebate across the board so that it is fair for all host employers. So we make a claim. So at the moment, we've made a claim for the period 1 March to 31st of March. The catch is that that is payable for prior to the 31st of March to only those employees that had that were small hosts that met this requirement. So these green spot specials, there's 55 of them, and they're, you know, in hot demand, because it doesn't matter what size host, and it doesn't matter if the host is receiving or not receiving JobKeeper. They get that minimum up to $7K a quarter, which is about $538 a week, obviously not including trade school time and things. But what the government said was, we don't want to be in a situation where group training apprentices are not able to be sent out. And we don't want to rely on the fact of whether a GTO is or is not performing better or worse. So we're going to top that up. So if the host employer receives JobKeeper, then we're going to top up the green spot specials up to $750 a week. And that's for those hosts that are registered with JobKeeper. So for this, it's about the host and not about the apprentice. In version 2, as I've said, that means that every other apprentice of our 120 apprentices, they are all entitled to version 2. So regardless of the size of the employer, if they are placed with an employer that has JobKeeper, that's a JobKeeper host employer, then we pay back $1,500 a fortnight, because again, it's about the host, not about the apprentice. So here it's pretty complicated. I hope I'm doing an okay job in explaining it. But essentially, some things that you should be aware of is that our hire apprentices can be used by you and attract subsidies that you can't get yourself as you grow and get out of COVID-19. So if you're a JobKeeper employer, host employer for your own people, and you need to hire some new apprentices, if you hire them yourself, you can't get JobKeeper for them. But if you hire them through us, then we can pay back the $1,500 a fortnight for you. And of course, once we've applied credits, you can use those credits to pay for further subsidised apprentices. So the administration of this is pretty complicated. But what we're going to do is we are going to look at the individual green spot special and the host employer, which is why we've asked host employers to return a declaration to us if they do have JobKeeper. And the reason why is because we will apply for the $1,500 a fortnight until they tell us their circumstances have changed. So let's imagine we've got Billy Bloggs and he's placed over a 13-week period. Let's say it's over a quarter. And Billy Bloggs is placed with a few different host employers in that time, but has also gone to trade school and taken some leave. or he's been on some downtime that we have paid for example. We'll look at those weeks, look at the time that he's with a JobKeeper host, look at the time that he's not with a JobKeeper host, make the claim to the government, receive it. Then we'll look at the whole 13 weeks and where he was every single week. And then we will apply back as a credit to the host employer's account the share that that host employer is entitled to. Please remember that on top of these wage subsidies, which expire on the 30th of September, for longer term hirings, you're also entitled to a further $4,000 of subsidies, but these are paid directly to you by the Victorian Chamber for continuous hirings. So if you hire a new first year apprentice that hasn't worked before, you can receive $2,000 at the end of 12 months and then $2,000 at the end of 4 years, which is paid directly to you. And many people don't realise that it's actually already cheaper to hire first years in particular in the award environment through us than via doing it themselves. And we do this so that we subsidise employees so that we get as many people working in the market as possible. Here you'll see a page on our website. All you can do, if you like, is put Master Plumbers Cost Savings Calculator into Google, and this page will pop up. And it shows you exactly raw calculations on first year apprentices. Particularly, as you would be aware, adults are paid more than $6 an hour more, and they don't end up on the same wage in the award environment until they're in fourth year for juniors. So when we look at just the basic calculations, we actually lose $19,000 on every adult we take on. And these are just the basic calculations. There's no accounting in here for time or other risks like OH&S or workers' comp accidents or any of that kind of thing, which of course you pay for in your premium should they happen. And for even first year junior apprentices, there's a saving to you of nearly $4,000. And of course, if you hire a new first year and keep them for a year, you can receive an additional $2,000 plus all the wage subsidies. So really, all of this is pretty incredible. And I want to make sure that host employers understand this, this scheme really well. So our rates, I should show you that. Our rates are actually always available on the website. We haven't changed our rates since March last year. So again, you can follow the URL that's at the top of the screen, but our rates are very public and available to all. Please remember, if you're a Master Plumbers member, you actually apply a 5% discount to the entire invoice. So whilst this rate shows you the hourly rate, which is all rolled in of $26.41, that includes all time at trade school, annual leave, sick leave, all costs and expenses. You also receive your 5% discount on the daily fares and travel. So that's the awards sector, so to speak, and then these are the EBA rates, and the same rules apply. So the member discounts apply even though it's not shown here, because you end up taking your 5% off the whole invoice. So it's a good idea to do your sums because you may find that in combination, it is far cheaper to hire people through us and also to make sure that you really take advantage of this new first year apprentice incentive as well. So I've got a couple of frequently asked questions. Firstly, what happens when the apprentices at trade school are on leave? Who gets the subsidy then? Well, because our charge out rates include just a little bit for every host employer to pay for the time when the apprentices at trade school or on leave, it's almost impossible for us to calculate it correctly. So what we've agreed is that what we will do is the weeks where the apprentice is actually working for the host, we will pay back that money. Now this has resulted in more than 80% of the time. So we are holding on to the other amount. So I'll just share what we've done to date. So you can see the dates on which we have received subsidies here into our bank account and the amount that we received for these employees. So these are the green spot specials, the very first subsidies that were claimed. And then what we did was we calculated what was due based on each week to each host employer. And then we've actually paid these amounts of money. Notice that sometimes the difference is very, very minimal, and others are times for downtime where we've paid the apprentice who hasn't been placed at work, or perhaps they've been at trade school, or perhaps they've been on leave. Because remember, this is for the period 1 January to the 31st of March. The green spot specials are here. So I will show you this spreadsheet. So these are the ones who were placed on the 1st of March with a small host, and that can include new starters we took on that had been let go, but on the 1st of March they were working for someone small. So I'll scroll through this screen. There are 2 that we're still checking the eligibility on, which is why they're yellow, but these are all of the ones who will be eligible for version 1 of the subsidy. So the next question is, what happens if my eligibility to JobKeeper changes? If it changes, the declaration that you're signing is to us that we're going to use to make a claim to the government to pass back money to you. So you have to tell us if your JobKeeper eligibility changes, because we don't want to be claiming for you if that changes. Why am I receiving payments for some and not other apprentices? As I've just shown you, we have lodged claim forms, and of course they go in order into the department's database, and they're looking at them all and then paying them in order. So because it can take up to 20 minutes to fill in each of the wage subsidy forms, or perhaps we might have been missing a training plan or something like that, the dates of submission of the forms are a little bit different. The administration is quite significant. And of course, the government is paying them in order. So as soon as we receive these payments, we will credit the relevant amount to you as fast as possible. We know this is really important to our hosts, and we're doing that as best we can. And I've just shown you who the green spot specials are. And as I've said, you can receive subsidies for them from the 1st of March, from the 31st of March onwards. It doesn't matter what size host employer you are, you can receive subsidies for them. So these are about the questions that I have received. I hope that I've gone some way to explaining it to you. If you have any questions at all in relation to these things, please drop me an email to natalie.reynolds@plumber.com.au, and I'll do my best to explain it to you. But thank you for your ongoing support, and please trust that we are doing our very best to return this money to you. Thank you.